Good afternoon. Welcome to Daenner Chapel. I'm Chaplain Randy Curry. We come together today to celebrate the life of Robert Werner Reismann, or Bob. Here we will shed many tears today, which is okay. That's good. But here we will also share smiles and laughs, because you know that's exactly how Bob would want it. So as each of you remember him, you will remember his wit, his laugh, his sharp tongue, and then you'll shake your head and think of things he probably said that you think I should repeat in this place. That's okay to repeat those in this place too. You're amongst family. All of that is healing and it is good. If you will, please join me in prayer. Gracious God, Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, you are the God who comforts us in all our sorrows. Today we gather to remember Bob Reismann, one single man who stood large in the lives of everyone in this chapel. Thank you for giving him to us to know and to love. May your compassion console all who grieve. And may our faith in you remind us that death has been swallowed up in the victory of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. In the program, you'll see the obituary, a very short history of Bob. You'll see that he was born on December 23rd, 1960, to Carl and Gail in Massachusetts. When he was almost 7, they moved to Wisconsin. Went to high school, graduated high school, and then launched the rest of his life from that place. You see, as you know him, how he loved to travel. And early on, he traveled. And then he did the study abroad and fell in love with Europe and with rugby and other things, including his beautiful wife. He came back after a short trip, short time, and made Germany home, going to Heidelberg University, and set up life here. And 30 plus years ago, he got hired with the Department of Defense to work with Stars and Stripes, and has been doing that ever since. You know the lives, you read there, some of the lives that he touched, but the expansive geography that he traveled and touched all over the Middle East, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Bahrain. The obituary tells a simple story that each one of you have the words to fill out that simple story to make it a novel. Each one of you been touched greatly by Bob and know the stories. We all struggled in May when he was diagnosed with cancer. And it was an excellent prognosis, but due to the combinations we know in the surgery and the compromised immune system, he wasn't able to fight off the infection that he developed post-surgery. He is survived by his wife of 25 years, Elena, who resides here in Germany. His 3 sons, Samuel, who's in the Naval Officer Candidate School in Rhode Island. Charles is out on the other coast in California, going to school. And Matthew, who's sticking back towards home in Massachusetts. Each young man doing great things across the world in the footsteps of the Father. That's the man that we come to today to remember, to celebrate, and to honor. We have a few people that will come and speak about Bob. First, David Schultz. David.
Thank you, Chaplain. Bob Reismann. Try to describe Bob in one word. It's not possible. He was so many things to so many people. Most of the time, people would say someone like Bob, he was a little bit of everything, but that doesn't quite fit either. Bob was a lot of everything. Strong family man, sports nut, dedicated worker, big and boisterous, funny, deadly serious, scatterbrained, smart alecky, very opinionated. The list goes on and on. I worked with Bob for 12 years, not just in an office environment, but flying around, and driving around the Middle East and Afghanistan. When you work, travel, eat meals, sleep in the same room or tent with another person day after day, sometimes for weeks at a time, you really get to know the other guy. And in such a crazy and dangerous environment, everything seemed magnified. It seemed Bob wasn't afraid of anything. And he liked to tease me all the time about going to some places. You afraid? You scared? I can tell you're scared. Once in Kabul's HKIA airport, I was in the billeting building, and an early morning rocket attack commenced. Loudspeaker said, stay in your sheltered building. So guys just hung out in their rooms, chatting, complaining about missing breakfast, etc. This went on for some time. We weren't allowed to leave our building. Bob called me from Bahrain. He says to me, hey, the attack is on CNN. You're scared, aren't you? And I said, no, I'm not scared. So I figured he was joking. I said, serious? And he says, yes. So I'm still on the phone. I tell my roommates, we go out to the sitting area to watch TV. All the Indian janitors are out there watching their cricket game, and they're begging us not to change the channel. So we made jokes, kicked them out, put the war coverage on. Okay. Bob kept going on the phone. War's kind of funny like that sometimes. War is war, but there's rockets flying, and what's everybody worried about? Missing breakfast and cricket. So he's telling me, you're scared. I know you're scared. One of our reporters, he wants to do a story on how scared you are. And it just kept going on, wouldn't let up. Finally, I said, yeah, I'm scared. We're all scared. We're scared if this goes on any longer, we're gonna miss breakfast and lunch. 2 years ago in Poland, we started deliveries to several bases, very spread out routes. I went on one route with one of the contract guys and the driver. Bob went on the other. This was around 11 at night. After about 45 minutes, my driver started nodding off. I yelled at him and he snapped out of it. About 15 minutes later, he actually went off the road. Luckily, no ditch on the side, no damage to the car. But let me tell you, I was scared. I said, that's it. This guy is not going to make it through the night. So the contractor and I took over the driving duties, threw the now unemployed driver in the back seat. We slept the rest of the night and did the deliveries ourselves. Bob texted me, how's it going? I told him what had happened and that we were carrying on. We put over 1,000 kilometers on the car that night and finished up around noon back at the hotel. Bob's group finished up about a half hour earlier. He was already asleep.
I don't like this.
I got about 4 hours
Yeah,
sleep.
but it helps you get
Went
behind
around
the
the
seat.
corner, this cafe on Times Square. After tea and pastries, I picked an art cafe, opened the paper, ordered a beer.
Boiling springs.
Bob calls me. Said he'd meet me.
That's fun.
He shows up, orders his beer. We look at each other, give a big prost, shake our heads and smile and say what a crazy night it was. He says, why did you tell me about that guy falling asleep? I was so tired and I was watching our driver to make sure he didn't fall asleep. Every time he moved his head, I jumped, scared the crap out of me. I said, you were scared? And I started laughing and he got really mad and I just laughed hard. In some ways, we were really opposites and tore into each other brutally. Me the skinny guy, him the big guy. Me the planner and the detailed guy. Bob, way off the cuff, shoot from the hip. New York, Boston, Yankees, Red Sox, had to say. We hated each other's driving abilities. Bob, always too fast, missing turns. Sometimes he'd pull out and grab his reading glasses to look at the road signs. It was really getting too much. I believe Elena must have said something to him, get damn good glasses. Thank you. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure. Oh, I'd miss a turn. He'd get all over my case. He missed one. He'd laugh it off. Tell me, relax. He'd tell people not to talk to me when I was driving because I needed to concentrate, as if that was, something to make fun of, concentrating on driving. But that's Bob. I told him, I said, Bob, it's only you. He picked the craziest subjects to be gesturing wildly while I was driving, making fun of liberal politics or the latest scheme that Harry had going to get under his skin. I see it back there. And he'd be carrying on and say, you're not even listening. So I'd look over to him once in a while, nod my head. He'd be going, waving his hands. Pelosi's doing this and crying Chuck's doing that. And I'd be looking at him. There you go. You missed another exit. Sorry. We also had many similarities. East Coast humor, our German heritage, Schultz, Reismann, working class roots, son of a butcher, he'd like to say. My dad was Archie Bunker personified. Worked on the loading dock at a factory, hit the neighborhood bars, bowling on Friday nights. We shared a love of the music of the Who. One great memory was me driving down Route 611. It's a super highway between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Bob's pulling up Who songs on his iPhone, playing air guitar and air drums, having the time of his life. Rocking down the highway was never better. One time I asked him, I said, Bob, what's your favorite Who song? And he said, the song called My Wife. So sweet. I was thinking of his beloved Elena. This is how the song starts off. My life's in jeopardy. Murdered in cold blood is what I'm gonna be. I ain't been home since Friday night, and now my wife is coming after me. Typical Bob humor, but we know we love you. And his boys, always the boys. My boy scored 3 goals, or my boy made 10 baskets. My boy kicked 3 field goals. My boy aced that big test. He was always so proud. Bob left each of us a small gift. For the rest of our lives, whenever we're at a party, mingling in small groups, drink in hand, telling stories, everybody trying to outdo the previous storyteller, something more outrageous. When there's a lull in the conversation, we'll be able to put out our hand and say, you guys don't have no good stories. Let me tell you a real story. I knew this guy named Bob Reismann. In closing, I'd like to tell you about when I went to Bob's house to pick him up that Sunday morning, taking him to the hospital. He was working as always, working on my orders for my trip to Poland on his laptop at the dining room table. He asked me some questions, finished up, loaded up his laptop, grabbed his bags. I teased him. You got everything? Bob could never go out the door without forgetting something. He said, good to go. We walked out to the car. He threw his bag in the back seat. Then he starts going through the zipper pockets. I turned around, I said, you forgot something. I knew it. He said, no, just check it. So he kept checking the pockets. His phone goes off, gets a text message, pumps his fist, says, all right, Elena landed. I was really struck by the timing. I said, Bob, seriously, you should have come home a couple days early, spent a little time with you before you went in. And he said, yeah, Elena said the same thing. But I said, no, take care of Charles. That's important. I'm going to be okay. Then he's done with his zippers. Says, okay, got everything. Gets in the passenger seat, does his usual fight with the seat belt. He always did. He looks over at me. He gives me one of his little talks. But looking back, it was almost like he was talking to family. He says to me, I raised 3 boys, 2 in college, 1 will be an officer in the Navy. I did my job. The rest is up to them. Now I can relax. Then I started the car, took him to the hospital.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Marcy Hoffman, and I am the Stars and Stripes Europe and Expeditionary Commander. First, thank you for everybody for coming today. Bob has touched so many people, and we are very grateful for everyone's support. Second, I want to say thank you to our staff who assisted with today's service: Shane Schmermeyer, Dave Schultz, Doug Doherty, Carrie Farrell, Mary Del Rosario, James Jones, Renee Joyner, Noel Min. Next, I'd like to say thank you to Chaplain Curry, to you and all of your staff for everything that they've done to support for this service, but also support for the Reismann family and our Stripes family. Chaplain Curry has been there from the very beginning since he was first notified of Bob's passing. And finally, thank you to the Reismann family and to Elena's family and friends from traveling abroad to be here today. Elena, I also want to say thank you for letting our Stripes family be a part of the service today. We really appreciate it. You know, Bob meant a lot to so many people. So as we know, Bob joined Stripes back in 1990. The staff described him as hardworking, dedicated, and very direct. After a few years, staff realized that Bob could handle much more, and eventually Bob ran the distribution for contingency areas. But Bob was a family man first. He always talked about his wife and boys. He was so proud of the boys' accomplishments. Dan Holland, a former coworker, said, I still remember when his first son Samuel was born and how proud he was as he grew and grew and grew. Last time I saw him, I think he was still in his mid-teens and towered over Bob at 6'4" and still growing. Well, Samuel may be done growing, but Bob never stopped talking about him, Charles, and Matthew. Their father was so proud. After I met Bob last summer, I knew I never had to wonder what Bob was thinking. He was very direct, and he knew how to get the mission done. Bob tried to convince me that he was just the paper boy, but after a few weeks in the office, I knew Bob ran everything for the contingency area operations, and he'd been doing so for a very long time. The commander from 2002 to 2004, Norm Schaefer, had this to say about Bob. I remember Bob being a guy who would tell us the way things actually were, not caring who he annoyed by telling the truth. I really appreciated that aspect of Bob. Another great attribute Bob had was his eagerness to work in the contingency areas. He definitely excelled and thrived as he supported the contingency areas. So what's incredible about Bob's work was that he was at a hotel that suffered an attack. Many of you know this story, and Bob still wanted to serve our troops there, despite the grave risks that existed. Bob believed so much in every aspect of our mission for Stars and Stripes. Our current Pentagon press secretary, Mr. John Kirby, noted last week after we found out about Bob's passing, I've seen the news that Bob Reismann, who worked for Stars and Stripes for a very, very long time, just passed away this week due to complications from cancer. If any of you, and I know many of you have served and are reported out of Iraq and Afghanistan, you can thank Mr. Reismann for the fact that you can pick up a copy of Stars and Stripes and read it, and so could the troops, because his key job was getting these copies of the newspapers to as many mess halls and work facilities across Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 20 years. It's pretty incredible work. And having been a veteran myself, I just can't speak about how important Stripes is to inform our men and women and their families all over the world, even in war zones. So I personally really appreciated all of Bob's very, very hard work, even during the pandemic when we couldn't travel. Bob understood the importance of our Stripes mission. He knew what it meant to keep troops informed in austere locations, often without internet. Our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Barry Williams, noted that Bob was the point person for getting Stripes delivered to all war and contingency zones, up to 50,000 papers a day at the height of troop strength in Iraq and Afghanistan. There are many other countries in Bob's paper route throughout the Middle East and Africa, and he was the linchpin to getting our paper to our most valued customers, those troops at the tip of the spear who could only get the printed paper. People in those areas didn't have a wireless connection, so print was all there was for them. And Bob served hundreds of thousands of troops deployed to those areas, getting the paper in their hands. We all owe Bob a huge debt of gratitude, and its passing is a terrible loss for this organization. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Williams' comment. We all miss Bob, his smile, any talk of, "Hey, Marcy, where'd you park the car?" In all seriousness, he will leave a big hole in our hearts, but his legacy will live on through the hundreds of thousands of veterans whose lives were touched by Bob's efforts to keep them informed while at war. They will always remember being able to pick up the paper by 6 a.m. wherever they were stationed. Our Stripes family will never forget Bob, and we will always be grateful for his hard work over the last 31 years. Thank you, Bob, for being our paper boy.
I want to begin by saying thank you to everyone that has either come here today or reached out to Elena and the family and giving your kind wishes and thoughts and prayers from the Reismann family, from Elena and the boys. We really appreciate all the support that we've received, and it really is from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you. I'm going to start off first explaining that Bobby, as he was known to us in the family, was the oldest, and he was the head of the family. There was always a bit of mystery about him with our siblings. He always seemed somewhat of a hard ass. The truth was, he was the biggest mush pie. Anybody that really knew him, he had the biggest heart. We had an incredibly close relationship, Bob and I. 53 years, 9 months, and approximately 4 days worth. We shared many things. Birthday, to begin with. Bob's birthday is 2 days before Christmas. My birthday is 2 days after Christmas. As kids, when you come from a large family, you share birthday cakes. That didn't change when we got older. Anytime we got together, we had to share the birthday cake. He took a bigger piece, I might add. We shared friends. His friends were my friends, and my friends became his friends. Even though we had 7 years difference between us, we love travel, we love good food, good drinks, lots of drinks, politics. Sometimes it went a little crazy on that. I loved him anyway. I sometimes even acted as an interpreter. Bob, car, okay? What Bob's trying to say is car. I love Dave's story about the glasses. You have no idea how long it took us to convince him to get glasses. When he finally came to California, he said to me, you know, we've been talking about it, and I'm thinking maybe I should get a pair of glasses. You think your arm doesn't go out long enough anymore. He finally got some glasses. It's amazing what you can see after that. Bob was the oldest of 10 children. Both our parents passed 22 years ago, respectively. But to me, Bobby was very important. He was my big brother. He was my loyal confidant. He was my protector. I have a sister that's older than me, and she always seemed to pick on me. All I had to do was look at Bob, and he took care of it for me when we were kids. Nobody messed with Bob. It's a little story that most people probably don't know. My mom got sick at one point. She went to the hospital, and she was gone for about 6 to 8 weeks, and we got put in foster care. There's 5 kids. Who's going to take 5 kids in foster care? So we got split up. Bob and I got put together, and my other 3 siblings were put in the same house. Every day, Bob, I think he was approximately in middle school. He would go to school, and then after school, he would come over to my school, pick me up, and bring me back to his school so he could play football, and I'd have to sit there and watch him play football for an hour or 2. But I was 6 or 7 years old, and he was my big brother. He'd hold my hand walking home, and we did that. And I think that was the point in our life that we became solidified as almost twins. He was the only person that came to my high school graduation. He gave me away at my wedding. He was present at my only child's birth. And in fact, Samuel was the first to hold her. Now, I was surprised he was going to come to this game because it happened to be the finals for the Anaheim Ducks Stanley Cup. And I thought maybe he was going to go, okay, I'll come tomorrow. But no, there in my hospital room with my brand new baby was my brother and his entire family. And Samuel, the first one to hold her. Elena got a little worried there because she thought if somebody was gonna get a good shot that Samuel was gonna hike Sophia. But all went well. She didn't land too hard. We went on every vacation together. We planned, while on that vacation, we started planning our next vacation. We had many vacations together. When our vacations came to an end and we left each other, Bob and I would try not to cry. In fact, we had a contest. Bob, of course, always lost, I might add. He would always be the first to start bawling like a baby. Of course, the minute he cried, I cried, but I still won. This time, Bob, you win. Every time I think of you, while time marches on without your presence in my life, I'll be bawling like a baby. My heart will forever have a hole and missing a piece without you. And until we meet again, fathead, try to behave.
Well, I was gonna come up with some sort of bigger story, but I think most people covered it up so far. I mean, from Dave's story, my aunt's, Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman's. Figure I don't need to go that far. So I'll just use this as a chance to thank everybody for showing up. It's been truly heartening for all of us, you know, the family, close, more extended family, to see truly the impact that it's had. People coming from halfway across the world, never mind the people that are watching it on the live stream from as far away as New Zealand and Australia and wherever else. So it doesn't bring him back, obviously, but it's nice to know he had a real impact on a lot of people's lives, especially on ours. And so it's a small consolation. It's a nice one. And it's good to know that the impact he's had as a friend, brother, uncle, father, professional, to see all the tributes coming in, see the people showing up. And it's good to know that his life meant something. It means a lot, at least for me. And I know it does for everybody else here. And so with that, it's good to know that it meant something, that the legacy will live on in all of us here. I'd also like to read a message on behalf of my godfather, my dad's best friend. He couldn't make it, it's too short notice. You'll have to be there during the memorial we'll have next summer. People that can make it at his home on Cape Cod. So it's from him. Dearest Bob, the events of the past few days have been difficult to deal with, and I want to send you this letter as you leave us and begin your journey to the afterlife. I'm hoping that Elena will read this. I ended up reading it. To you in my absence. I want you to know that I'm crying like a baby as I am typing this. I still can't believe you're gone. Looking over old photos, not such a good idea, has brought back so many fond memories of our friendship. It was 35 years ago this August when we first met. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at Baxter's in Hyannis and getting ready to leave when mutual friends of ours came up to me and to figure out what we were going to do after hours. During this discussion, Jimmy Igo said he had a friend he wanted me to meet because a friend of his reminded him of me. I think he said something about our interest in Germany. Anyway, we met and we immediately became friends. Looking back, that was weird because we really clicked, as they say. You spent the night at my pad, or should I say, passed out at my pad, and the rest is history. We basically spent the rest of the time before you left for Germany together. You made a life and a career over there, all of your own. You really did wonderful things at Stars and Stripes and met the woman of your dreams. Lucky for you, she's a Finn. Should put some context. My uncle's also Finnish. His dad was actually from Finland, so he was always proud of that. It's even more special for him. So you raised 3 strong, smart, and lovely boys, young men actually, that will gain strength as we go forward. I am so upset that you will not be here to witness some of the things that will occur in the coming years, but don't worry because I will send you updates every so often. I'm also freaking pissed off because you, me, Sandra, and Elena won't be able to grow old together, and that you finally were really going to be right around the corner. So here's the first update. The Pats aren't looking too. Okay, I gotta go before I lose it. I'm devastated that I will not be there to say goodbye. I'll never ever forget you and the friendship we had. You left way too early and we'll miss you very much, even the sourdough feet. Until we meet again, Scott.
It's been an honor to meet the young men. And I know you're a trio that you now just have become for years the boys, like it's an entity in itself. It's been an honor to meet, to know you just a little bit. I never met Bob, but I have learned a lot about him this week. I've heard the stories, his sharp wit, his tongue, even as I walked a few times through the building, Stars and Stripes. There was a story to be told at every office door, every corner. I learned about his boldness and his hunger as a young man to travel. I saw the rewards of that boldness in the eyes of his wife and his sons. I learned how he cared for everyone in the Stars and Stripes family, across this garrison, around the world, and I see the imprint that he has left on Elena, on his boys, Samuel, Charles, Matthew. He's left an imprint on everyone here. That imprint can feel like a weight, probably feels like an emptiness right now. But truth be told, that imprint is a treasure. He is like a story that changes your thinking. Bob's like a great joke that makes you laugh out loud. It gives you joy for a long time. Or maybe better yet, he's like a fresh newspaper that after you've read it, you've got the newsprint on your hand. He touches you, he changed you, he's affected your life. Your interaction with him has left a mark, and that is a good thing. God gives us a picture of his caring presence and how he places his impact on us in Psalm 23, where we're the lost sheep and he's the shepherd imprinting on our lives. Psalm 23 goes, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. You are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Today, truly, we are in the middle of the valley of the shadow of death. We mourn the loss of a great man who stood large in your family and large in your life. But though we mourn the end of his life, it's not the end of his influence and not the end of his impact. Bob's legacy, the impact on the lives, on the men and women that he led and trained, remains. Think about it. Our freedoms today are impacted by the soldiers, the airmen, the civilians, the other military people that were able to pick up stars and stripes around the world. They were informed, they were able to do their job because the job that Bob did. His legacy lives on in those who worked alongside him, traveled with him, explored the world with him. His legacy lives on in the character and the ethics that he installed in each one of his sons. When you look around, you will see Bob. When you make that right decision, when you stop to help somebody in need, when you wave an American flag, pick up a newspaper, celebrate a New England Patriots win. Being a Cowboys fan, it's hard to say that. But you will see him. John 11:25 says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. And then Jesus asks, do you believe that? It is that belief in Jesus as a resurrection and the life that encourages our hearts as we face the loss of Bob. Today we say goodbye to Bob, and we know he is forever a part of us, and we will be remaining with us every day. He is always your dad, always your husband, always brother, always friend. You will find the Lord's Prayer in the bulletin. I invite you to pray with me together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. The team, the family, the Stars and Stripes, has put together video and pictures of Bob, a glimpse into his life.
We need to get the paper delivered because it is about the paper. And it's about the soldier that receives the paper. And if he doesn't receive the paper on time, he's not going to read the paper. So then why deliver the paper?
As the longtime circulation manager for Stars and Stripes, Bob Reismann travels throughout the Middle East to ensure smooth delivery of the paper to the troops.
The Stars and Stripes paper route is all over the Middle East. Kuwait, Iraq, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. It also stretches into North Africa. I mean, Djibouti, we deliver papers every day as well.
But Afghanistan presents its own set of problems. How to get this hometown paper to the battlefield.
The challenge is that they're printed in Bahrain, and we have to have them shipped over from Bahrain to Bagram. They're moved through 3 different services in order to get onto the planes that fly over from Bahrain to here. And then they're trucked out to the delivery points on the base. Here in Afghanistan, where the internet is very bad, or Kuwait, the internet is bad, their first thing in the morning with their cup of coffee is the Stars and Stripes. They're picking the paper up. working to get the paper to the soldier at the early times possible out in the field. That's what I do. I'm just a paper boy.
Music comforts the soul. The words behind Amazing Grace, the hymn, touch us just as the other songs of the Who touch us. Thank you so much for being here today, but more importantly, thank you for being a part of Bob's life. Thank you for being an open heart and strong arms that wrap around each other. We're grateful that you attended the service today. After the benediction, I will leave. If you want to greet Elena's family, that is okay, but ask that you do exit the chapel so they can have some time alone before they leave the chapel. For this afternoon, following the service, there is a reception. Everyone at Il Parata in Needamore. She knows exactly what that is. It's the family. Join me in prayer for the benediction. Oh God, you know our needs well before we ask. We ask that you give us grace as we stand in the presence of death, that we may see the light of eternity. Help us to live as those who prepare to die. And when our days here are accomplished, enable us to die as those who go forth to live, so that in living or in die, our life is in you. Into your hands, O merciful Savior, we commend Robert Reismann. Acknowledge the sheep of your own fold, the lamb of your flock, and we the sinners of your own redeeming. Receive him into the arms of your mercy, where there is everlasting peace and light. In the powerful name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.